Hey, welcome to Tank Talk. I'm your host, Bob Tankard. And this evening's guests are a cast of great individuals and a cast of thousands almost. We have Dr. Ann, we have Ian Miner, and we have Arthur Andrews. And Arthur, you came back, you were on the show way back, right?
I
Or
was
were you supposed to be?
I was supposed to
To
be.
be
I
on the
came in
show
a
the
little
first
late.
time 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. And did you ever think 10 years ago you would be coming back celebrating 10 years of the Battle in the Bluffs?
Well, I'll tell you. Initially, I may not have. However,
Mhm.
you predicted it. Year one, you said, this is something that's going to continue
Yeah.
on. And, we can't wait to look back 10 years later. That's something that always stuck with me.
Okay, Dr. Ann, I would pronounce your last name, but I can't. So, Dr. Ann,
Yes.
tell us about yourself.
So I am Dr. Ann DeRosier. I am the founder of The World Is Your Oyster, Inc. I am an educational consultant. I am a youth development expert. I'm for the kids always. I love the kids. And I am an international travel boss, so to speak. So I travel with young people. I've been to 57 countries.
Woo!
And yeah, I'm just in this space in many different ways, but always love the vineyard. It's really good to be back as well. Our students from TWIO actually came to MVTV and had a great time, and so it's just really amazing. It's just really amazing to be back and to meet you too. So
Let me tell you something. I'm sitting here looking at you. I'm saying to myself, you sure you're Dr. Ann or you're just one of these high school teachers or high school kids trying to be a doctor? You know what I mean? You could probably walk through the halls of the high school and nobody would ever think you were a big adult with a doctor's degree and everything.
it happens all the time.
I think it does.
It happens all the time.
Does.
I don't teach anymore, but I did teach high school. I did teach middle school, and I sometimes in the beginning stages, in the beginning early days, I will get confused for a student. So I'm super grateful for that and the good genes. So.
You know, one thing, when I first became principal of the West Isbury School, there was a teacher like you. She was small and she looked like one of the kids. Mm-hmm. And she came into the office and I asked her, I said, do you have permission to leave the class? And she looked at me and she says, I'm a teacher. I said, oh, and I had just gotten there, so I hadn't gotten to know all of them yet. I said, oh, okay. And she was a little girl, really cute. Big E.
Yes, sir.
You're back.
I'm back.
Being the basketball star of the Vineyard back in the day, and you had some travel. Tell us about it, Ian. What you been doing?
I would first of all, I would say on my team, Jose was the star. Just so
Okay.
get out there. I was a supplementary player.
Okay.
I did my job at a high level though. But I mean, from year 10, we've expanded what we do outside of the scope of sports, and we create curriculum for students of all walks of life. But we specialize and focus on at-risk students.
Okay.
But any students can opt in and participate in what we do. And Battle in the Bluffs this year will be a culmination of all we've learned in real time in 10 years. And so I expect it to be the best one because of what we've done thus far and all the data we've compiled by having Battle in the Bluffs every year and by showing the staying power. This year is going to be special. So I'm just excited and happy that we're here and year 10 is an ode and an honor to my mother, right? Without my mother, without her bringing us to the Vineyard and forcing me to go to school here, because originally I came here kicking screaming because I said I know it's not what it is in the summer that's not what it is in the wintertime. But that choice that my mom made, that executive decision that my mom made, ultimately changed my life and provided the platform for what is Battle in the Bluffs, 10th year celebration.
Your story is similar to mine, but I came probably 20 years before you came when it was like 4,200 people on the island year round. I came from New Jersey. And in the summertime, like you said, it was a great thing to be here in the summer. But when Labor Day came and the streets became barren overnight, you say, what is this place? How did this happen? And I just couldn't. I rebelled in a sense, but it was the best thing that ever happened. The decision, the administrative decision you said your mother made, well, my mom made the same one, and it was the best thing that happened. Arthur,
Yes.
Tell us your part of Battle in the Bluffs, about yourself and Battle in the Bluffs.
Well, I would say it started 21 years ago when
Okay.
I first came to the Vineyard.
Okay.
My high school, I went to all boys prep school in Connecticut,
Okay.
and my roommate James Jennings,
Okay, Jimmy. Yeah.
his grandmother, may she rest in peace. She brought him out here originally, and so in 2000, I was in New York in between schools and having in between school years having a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
James grabbed me up and said, you need to go on vacation. He brought me here to the Vineyard. That's when I met Ian. I think Ian at the time was just starting high school,
Right.
in the middle of high school, and essentially from that friendship, from that
Mm-hmm.
unification, and then obviously it being here in the Vineyard, it kind of grew. We all went into our own different walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
James became an educator. Ian became an educator. I went to Wall Street, became a finance guy. But they were always on me about, how we could help the kids. While I was always about helping the kids, I didn't want to be in the classroom with them. I didn't want to be in the building.
Right.
And I would say I fought that up until the first year we did the Battle in the Bluffs.
Okay.
And so when we did the Battle in the Bluffs, it was a little more natural for me because it was basketball. I was
Mm-hmm.
a basketball player, played in
Mm-hmm.
college. And it allowed me to become an educator without being a teacher. And
Right.
being able
That's
to,
great.
yes. And so being able to see that link, it triggered for me, and really it changed my life. Shortly thereafter, I stopped working on Wall Street. I started coaching basketball,
Mm-hmm.
something I always said I would never do. I thought I always wanted to just be a player. I started coaching basketball. I now coach girls basketball and train women's basketball players. And from there, we've developed BITB into our larger, as Ian said, our larger educational nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And from that same standpoint, just taking those same lessons that we've been learning over the last 10 years and expanding them to now it's not just Martha's Vineyard. We're in LA, we're in New York, we're in Miami, Detroit, and a lot of these different places that I thought, high finance was going to take me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to all of these different places, not because I was trying to do something for myself, but because I was trying to do something for others. And, I get a great vacation every year that usually you have to be one of those high finance guys to get.
Right.
But I get it, and I'm able to enjoy it and be able to provide it to others and show them that experience. And it all started with Battle in the Bluffs.
Great. Dr. Ann,
Mm-hmm.
you got these two gentlemen here that were outstanding basketball players in their day, and they had a vision of something along the line. What part of this program do you play?
Yeah, so when I founded TWIO, I
Mhm.
founded TWIO, I believe, we incorporated in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
started it and tried to get it started, and I fell flat on my face.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna have like students. I thought I
Mhm.
was gonna, I did a lot of groundwork and nothing happened. And I think it's super important to always be vocal about your
Mhm,
failures
mhm,
because
mhm.
that's where the help comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had a friend, and I was like, I'm struggling to get kids, for my program, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I thought I was gonna start and I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Asia Lynn,
Mm-hmm.
we were having drinks at the time, and then she was like, you need to call my brother. Like, he's really about the kids, and I
Mhm.
think your company is amazing. I think what
Mhm.
you're trying to do is amazing, and he'll help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
And she connected me to Ian.
Mm-hmm.
I think we texted at first. I don't even think we even spoke on the phone, but Ian was just like, oh yeah, like, let me know what you're trying to do, and I'll try to plug you in. And in 2013, just over conversations and being able to share what I wanted to do, and the vision I had for young people, Ian was like, listen, let's do it at the school that I work at.
Okay.
And so TWIO was actually, and Ian, is TWIO's founding board member.
Okay.
And so we're like thick as thieves when it comes to doing this work,
Mhm.
when it comes to supporting the young people. And I had this vision, and I said, I want to take them away. He was like, oh, I do Battle in the Bluffs every summer. So why don't you just bring the kids? And so not only was Ian primarily responsible for TWIO getting started in 2013 with a group of middle school students, sixth graders in East New York, Brooklyn, Ian was also responsible for us doing, in our first programmatic year, our first trip to Martha's Vineyard.
Wow.
And so logistically, I put, like I said, I'm into
Well,
travel.
how many kids do you bring?
The first year we did 6. It was a
Okay.
pilot. We did 6.
Okay.
We stayed at the hostel.
Okay.
We came, we did the Martha's Vineyard Heritage Tour.
Okay.
In Oak Bluffs.
Right.
They did Battle in the Bluffs, obviously. We came to MVTV.
Okay.
So they got to record themselves, and we have a lot of this footage from when we were here, and just the lives were changed.
Okay.
You know, and I think I always give credit where credit is due.
Right.
But I think that when I think about how long we've been working together in service of young people,
How long
and where
have you
we
guys
are
been
now,
working together? You and Ian, 10 years, 8 years?
About 9 years.
9 years now,
Okay.
yeah, almost going on a decade. And just when I think about that, I think very often about the fact that everything is predestined when you operate in your purpose.
That's right.
And when you operate in service of others. And especially when it comes to young people, like, I think God favors people that work with young people a
You're
little
right.
bit more.
You hit the nail on the head.
You know, and so I think it's a blessing. I've always considered having Ian in my life a blessing. And so when we met, so I came out to BITB in 2013, came back again the second year with 15 kids. I came back with middle school kids, and I came back with high school kids in 2014. And, you know, TWIO itself has kind of evolved over time. And so there's been a gap in when we've come back, just while we think about recruitment and things like that and how the program looks on the ground in Brooklyn. But ultimately, I've always been kind of involved with Ian in servicing students and funneling them to BITB, him funneling students to me, and things that I'm working on, or things that I know about for the kids in New York. And so we stay connected in New York, and now our work has evolved into the work of developing curriculum, into the work of consulting. And so now we are the founders and partners of the Ed Experts, which is why we're on the Vineyard today. So we just did and ran a diversity and equity workshop for staff at Martha's Vineyard Public Charter School. So I just think that.
And what would that entail? What would that entail, Ian?
The actual PD?
Yeah, the curriculum, and what would that entail?
So the culture clinic, if you're talking about the culture clinic, so the PD is basically the framework for what we called our culture clinic, which is what Battle in the Bluffs is. Battle in the Bluffs is a culture clinic that has a sports element. And sports happens to be basketball. But any sports is applicable to the actual culture clinic module. So we have certain things that we focus on that are important, which are our pillars. Resilience is one of them, right? And not saying that children need to be resilient, but that children already are resilient, right? To identify the areas in their life where they're already being resilient. Because a lot of times the disconnect is students hear all the time that they need to be resilient, rather than look at what you just did today. That's resilience. The ability to be able to communicate through adversity or under duress, like those moments are very important, and those moments change the trajectory of kids' lives. If they're not able to, slow themselves down, take a deep breath, and then, relay the message. For one, they don't get heard, right? If you're not able to relay the message in a way that's conducive to being retained, then you're wasting your breath. But then ultimately, specifically if you're a student of color, you end up getting yourself in trouble. So you go from advocating to yourself to now becoming the villain in the story, where you're just trying to empower, yourself and those people around you. And so, the pillars are what the culture clinic is anchored in, but ultimately they change from culture clinic depending on who and what and why we're doing it. But I think the Battle in the Bluffs is a good representation that, though we have a lot of kids who don't love basketball, but we have a lot of kids who don't love basketball but have come to every year of Battle in the Bluffs in spite of not loving basketball. And that is because...
Is it because of what you're teaching?
Yes, I believe so.
Rather than, making sure you get the ball in the hoop, it's about what you're bringing to the table culturally, educationally.
I also think, when all of the TWIO students that came, TWIO is not a sports-based program. It's a youth development program that our mission is to broaden the horizons of inner city students through travel, culture, service, and experiences. Nowhere in that does it say sports. It does say travel, it does say experience. And what I could say about Andy, about all of the coaches, they're right there with our kids. Like, it's all right. Go ahead. Like, do that. Like, shoot, like, throw the ball. Like, it's okay. And our students in particular, what we saw when we did Battle in the Bluffs was that They loved being able to see other young people
Mhm.
of all different ages
Mhm.
persevering.
Okay.
They loved being able to get that support from people that they never met that really was just cheering them on. Like, regardless of your talent level, it's not about talent. And they loved the ability to come back after they did their day of working out, our kids don't get out much. I mean, I'll just say it. Students now, they're stuck inside all day.
They don't. We were talking about that the other day. They're not out there playing. I was telling my grandkids that. I said, we used to, play on the street. We used to build scooters. We used to build wagons. We play hopscotch, jumping jacks, and we did all these things outside. I said in the summertime, I'd do my paper route at 5 o'clock in the morning. At 8 o'clock, I lived in the projects, and we gathered together, got 12 of us to play baseball. My mother didn't see me again until 5 o'clock that night to eat supper, and then I'd do my little thing and go to bed. I said, but today,
it's all on the screen. It's all a video game. It's all on the phone. So you have to understand. I think even when when TWIO students came, and I don't know if you've experienced this to continue, Ian, but a lot of the students, it's hard for them to actually be physical to that degree that for that long. And it's a half day, right? But to consistently show up and do that, it is resilient. And our students they gave Andy and Ian the biggest bear hugs ever. Like, we had a thing where our kids would we show love in a certain way. And the way that our students show love, I was like, all right, y'all, it's time to show love. They would just mob people and just give them bear hugs for whatever they decided to pour into them. Michelle from MVTV got that bear hug.
Okay.
And so, really it's about community for young people and showing them what positive community looks like amongst people that they don't know as well.
Andrew, when she was talking about, just shoot the ball, I know that you and Ian, when your coaches came along, you just couldn't shoot the ball the way
you wanted to.
It was a particular way that you had to perform out there and dribble and all that. What made you change? What made you say, okay, there's something bigger than the way you have to shoot that ball right? What is it that made you change?
For me, it actually happened prior to this because I went to college, played basketball, and my junior year, I quit the team. And in large part, there were other reasons, but in large part, it was because I realized that there were other parts of the game that I particularly did not care for. I just call it the business of basketball once you get there. So I didn't care for that. I didn't care for media training, and I wasn't the star player, but got media training and all. I just want to play the game. But at the same time,
when you say media training, how to act in front of the media?
How to act in front of the media, meeting with alumni.
Okay.
All of these things that had nothing to do with just playing basketball.
Okay.
But I recognize that if I could have that feeling and just love the game, there's somebody else out there who probably does not love, that's around the game, but maybe they don't like the game. They love being in front of the camera. They love meeting with alumni. And so what I started to realize is that there's, even with the basketball, there's all these other passions that you're able to tap into. And so while I can be sitting there trying to teach a student how to shoot the basket, and that's why I'm there, and I can be passionate. And if I can see that the student's not necessarily into it, but they're just a great photographer, they're always on their phone. This is the student who's always taking selfies. And rather than say, man, when I was young, I used to just be on the court all day, I would say, man, you know what? You'd be a great photographer. You ever see this one or that one? You see the posters? There's somebody who does that. You know what I mean? And so if you want to know the proper way to catch, Kevin Durant hitting the game-winning shot, if you want to be able to catch understanding how he shoots the ball will help you with that shot. And maybe that's a
far
analogy and a far concept from Wall Street.
It is.
but he's an educator. Like, the way he just did that, right? Like, speaks to how his own experiences and backgrounds allows that nuance to make it seem so easy, and why it's perfect for all the kids that are showing up. Because what we have realized in all of our even independent pathways to working together, right, is that you have to be able to connect, right? And connective, right? Like, it just makes sense. Like, you have to be able to connect and connect in so many different ways. And not connect because you want to land something, but connect because you want to meet the student. You want to meet a young person where they at, and then encourage them and uplift them in the ways that you can.
Ian, from 10 years ago when you first started until now, where has the program evolved?
Wow. I mean,
A lot.
It's evolved a lot. What I'll say too before I get into that is that from the question you asked Andy, I coached at the collegiate level, right? And if you coach at the collegiate level, you know that once you're done with high school, most kids are not going to play at the next level.
Right.
If you can play 4 years of high school, the amount of kids that go on to play that played 4 years of high school, any sport that go on to play college is like 2.3%. And so even if you care about kids and you're doing a basketball event, how are you meeting the kids where they're at that don't love basketball? Right. How does that kid who's not going to make a shot, who's not going to get a stop, how do you provide a program where that kid is a superstar for a day, or where he can get applause and awards in a way that they leave feeling fulfilled, right? And so it was dope because Battle in the Bluffs provided us an opportunity to be coaches and think outside of the 94 feet.
Right.
And so that was the gift. But to answer the question you just asked, I mean, from Battle in the Bluff, we have a year-round sports curriculum, intern broadcasting sports curriculum that uses basketball as a pillar, but there's so many other areas for kids to opt in. Like Andy said, if a kid wants to be a videographer, he could be part of the broadcasting crew. If a kid wants to be in front of the camera, he could be the Kenny Smith, the Charles Barkley, and the Shaq of our tournament, right? So now they're in front of the camera, and so now while they're doing it, they're learning public speaking, right? But they're able to operate in their passion. So those failures, when you're operating in your passion and you fail, it's less of a hit because you're more apt to get back up because you're passionate about these things, right? And so it's organized chaos and adversity. We put kids through curated adversity so that they come out on the other side understanding like, well, when I'm passionate about things, these are the things that I'm going to have to go through even when I'm not passionate. But if I'm passionate about it, that's what gets me through. And so we have a program in the Bronx right now, in a pretty tough area of the Bronx. It's called the Mitchell Housing, and it's run by Eastside House Settlement, which is a nonprofit. And so that tournament is so Battle in the Bluffs created Eastside House Classic. And the Eastside House Classic is a longer version, a more curated version to speak specifically to kids who don't love basketball, but we want them involved. And so kids have to do, so nobody pays for this tournament. The jerseys are free. They don't pay for anything. But what a student has to do, they have to go to one culture clinic a week to be eligible to play that week, right? And then in order to be eligible for the playoffs, a team has to do 10 hours of community service. And so just by using basketball for the kids who love basketball and passionate about basketball, we are now engaging them in civic engagement opportunities. Whether they like to or not, if they love basketball enough, they're going to do it. It's way different from telling a kid, okay, well, you got to do 10 hours of community service to graduate. It's like, hey, well, I don't necessarily love school. So why am I going to do 10 hours? I'm going to wait to the last minute. But when playoffs are in August, the tournament starts in July, you know that if you don't get those community service hours done, you're not playing. And so it's very finite. You're teaching these kids to be responsible. Exactly. through their passion and not basketball is a conduit for kids who don't. So listen, we added for referees. There's so many ways you can opt in if you love basketball. You can't play at the next level. So if I love basketball but I can't play at the next level, am I defeated? And I say, okay, well, I can't. There's nothing for me to do. No. Now we start to explore the things that you can do and still operate in your passion. So you can be a broadcaster, you can be a ref, you can be a coach, you can be an athletic trainer. Like there are a number of things.
There's a number of things that they can do to be around the game without having to play the game.
Absolutely. Exactly. And so and that's through program curation, and that's what Ann also brings that on a high level that none of us had in our tool bag. In order to make it seamless for the kids. It's easy to make a curriculum seamless for adults to read, right? But who can make a curriculum that's going to be impactful and ultimately the kids are going to retain the information that they're getting.
Mhm.
And so Ann is the superstar at that, right? Amongst other things.
So let me ask you a question.
Thank you.
Ann calls you your end of your first year, and basically both of you marry your programs together. Am I right or wrong?
Not the
Okay.
first year, but
The-
along the way.
Along
that's
the
what
way.
happened.
Year two.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happened.
And now both of you work in tandem
Mhm.
to make sure these kids out there,
Mhm.
you know, they may be kids of learning disabilities or various other things, come together working with the same concept in mind, the same learning pattern,
Mhm.
and the same goals to move forward.
It's pretty much. I mean, it sounds distilled, and I'll take it a step further and kind of highlight
Okay.
some of how Battle in the Bluffs has grown and how it's
Okay.
growing
Okay.
for like next year too. So I'm always thinking about, even in my other jobs, I'm always thinking about the user experience.
Okay.
And I'm always thinking about the user experience from a young person's perspective,
Mhm.
because that's my people's, that's my
Okay.
audience, that's who I advocate for and everything. So one thing that the way that we work, it'll kind of just be like, I come up with an idea,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I text Ian like, man, I got this idea, like this is what it is in the text, and he'll be like, nah, let's add it, let's do it, you know.
Mhm.
Or Ian will text me, this is what I'm thinking, and I will come out with a full-fledged thing. Like, he'll tell me like a few bullet points, and I'll create like a whole thing behind it. Like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. We could incorporate this, and this to highlight your point about that, and then we gonna make it rock and roll. And so when Tweedo came to Battle in the Bluffs, I think what changed the game in that perspective was that Battle in the Bluffs was the anchor, but what I came with was the wraparound, was the island experience. I've never been to Martha's Vineyard. My kids have never been to Martha's Vineyard. What could I do to up the ante on exposure of experience so that our kids see something different and feel loved and know that like the sky is the actual limit? You could tell a kid you could be anything, but if the only thing I know is the projects, if the only thing I ever see is the four corners of my block and that's all I see, it's never gonna hit me like that.
Right.
I gotta take you out of that. And some of the things that our kids said, it still stick me to this day. Like our students will be like, yo, that's the first time I ever saw stars. It smells so good on this island. It smells like flowers. Like, oh my God. Like, first time I've been on a boat.
Yeah.
We took the
What's
ferry.
his best experience?
Right.
He loved that. His most favorite thing was Alan. His favorite thing was the boat.
Well, we got about a minute and a half.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ian, tell the kids how they can get involved in Battle of the Bluffs.
So you can register at connectiveinc.org. If you're on Instagram, you can go to at Battle in the Bluffs, and then you can click the link and register from Instagram. But both of those ways are viable ways, and also my sister has uploaded the link to our Facebook account as well. So those are just three of the platforms you can register on. The camps this year are the second and third, and we have a few surprises in store for the campus and also for the parents. And just ultimately, I think that it's going to be a very, very, very cool experience and something that's going to help us build for the next 10 years.
And sorry, I just wanted to plug.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to also plug and make sure that Ian talks about the evolution, which is Fern's Fund, in honor of Mama Fern.
Okay.
And she was just such a big everything when I came with the students.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to, and because that really is the next 10 is really rooted in the Fern Fund and making sure that we are here to stay forever and for many young people to come. So I just wanted to make sure you speak on that.
Well, listen, this is very, very, very rewarding to me, very enthusiastic, and a lot of energy on this channel. There's a lot of energy. I want to thank you, Dr. Ann. Ian, always, same, for coming on the show, spending your time, and I know it's going to be a success. I know you guys are leaving out of here tomorrow, but you'll be back
27th.
We'll be back the
20th of June, right?
Yep, of June.
Getting ready for the big thing in July 4th weekend, right? Listen, and I want to let you know, you got an open invitation. We're going to try to get the MVTV down to the field like we did years ago, and a couple of years ago, to make sure that we cover all that you're doing. And I want to thank you for tuning into Tank Talk. Until next time, this is your host, Bob Tankard, saying good evening.